All right. All right, if anyone is here for the live, I'm just setting up a couple of things, so bear with me with some technical issues. In the meantime, if you have not already downloaded the Weather and Radar app to keep track of this, not only the severe weather information and forecast, but also the future weather events that are happening every day across the U.S. and in your area, please be sure to do so. And please bear with me as I am just setting up a couple more items. Make sure this is working on my end. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us. Please do share the live feed with anybody you know that is in the line for these severe storms that are going to be coming through later this evening, especially across Oklahoma. If you know anybody in Oklahoma, please send the link to them so that they can follow us here as we go over the severe weather event. I'm also going to be going live on Facebook right after this so that we can get everybody in, get all the information out that we need to get. I'm going to drop the link for the app in case you have not downloaded it yet, just to make sure that you have all the weather and radar information, and so that you can have the latest forecast for the severe weather event. Let me grab that. And we're going to get into it here in just a moment. These storms are going to be starting later this evening and into the overnight hours. All right, I've just dropped the link so that you can make sure you have the latest update of the Weather and Radar app to have the latest forecast for your area. All right, so, and if anybody could please let me know that you can hear me. I want to make sure that my mic is nice and loud for you and that you can hear me clearly. If you could just comment that you can hear just fine, that would be very helpful. And we will get started. Awesome. All right, cool. All right, again, thank you everybody for joining this YouTube live this afternoon for Weather and Radar. We are going over the severe weather event that is happening across the southern plains that is going to be getting going here very soon. We're taking a look right now. Here is the current view of the weather radar. This is what everything looks like at the moment. You can see some cloud cover right here over the southern plains and into the mid-Mississippi Valley, and a few rain showers that are moving through the area. What I'm watching at this current time is this dry area here where it's plenty of sunshine, warm temperatures, and this is the area we're going to be watching for storms to start firing later this evening. Now I do want to show you what we're actually looking at here. So I'm going to bring up the Storm Prediction Center forecast. All right, that's what this looks like right now. You can see that red blob right in the middle. That is the Storm Prediction Center's, the National Weather Service forecast for this afternoon's event. So we have a moderate risk sitting right smack dab in the middle of Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, Norman, Fort Sill, and Tulsa. So what a moderate risk is, that is a level 4 out of 5 on the severity scale for the Storm Prediction Center. And you can see that the chance for storms extends as far out as into the Midwest, into Illinois here. So we've got a large area that we're keeping an eye on for the severe weather event that we're going to start to see getting started later this evening, about 6 o'clock Central. So any grilling plans this evening, get them in early, and make sure that you are indoors and ready for this severe weather event, as this could get pretty dangerous as far as what is about to unfold later here tonight. So we have, like I said before, we have the moderate risk that's sitting right here across the central parts of Oklahoma. with an enhanced and slight run on the outside of that. So any of these cities that are within, from the green to the red, if you are in any of these cities, and if you know anybody that's in any of these cities, make sure they have the forecast ready. They're keeping an eye on the situation, as this afternoon and evening is going to get pretty dangerous when it comes to this line of storms that's going to be forming here very soon. So I do want to go over the setup for the severe weather event. Now, many of you may have heard of the Southern California event that just occurred across the Southwest into Southern Nevada, where they saw snow, heavy rain, and flooding, and a lot of them saw snow for the first time in a long time across some of these areas. That same storm system is ejecting across the southern central Rockies and is moving into the southern plains this afternoon, and will be in the mid-Missouri Valley by later this evening. This low pressure is potent. It is going to be causing the severe storms that we're going to be seeing later this evening, and we're already seeing the setup currently as these storms are going to be getting set up. So this is the low pressure that we are looking at right now. This is on the Weather Prediction Center. This low pressure here is going to be swinging across the central and southern plains, dragging this cold front right along its southern edge. Now this cold front is going to be running into some water-laden air, warmer air across the southern plains, and that's carrying really dry, cold, dense air right behind it. That clash of those two types of air masses is going to cause the lift of all of that moisture right out ahead of it and warmth in that air mass. That lift causes that instability, which is going to create those storms. That's why you see those towering storm clouds. It's all that lift. You're seeing them tower into the air and condense, and all of that upward vertical motion is creating those storms as they move across. So that cold front's what's going to be hitting that air mass, and that's what's going to be driving the severe weather event as it moves across later this evening. Now let's get into the threats that are coming with these storms, as I mentioned earlier. So first we're going to talk about the winds. The winds are the biggest threat when it comes to the severe storms later this evening. You see this pink hatched area right across. It's the same area as moderate risk, right across central Oklahoma. These are winds that are going to be at least 75 miles per hour. And now, if that's not enough damage, there is a good possibility for a derecho to happen as this line of storms moves through. Now, derecho is straight line constant winds, and this one looks like it could be 80 to 110 miles per hour of straight line winds, which could cause a lot of damage and really send anything that's outdoors and loose flying. Let me bring this back here. That could become a dangerous object if it's sent flying. Biggest thing with these storms is to heed the warnings that do come through. Any severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning, heed those warnings. Go to the central location in your home, away from doors and windows, especially because of these winds. Anything that does fly outside, it's possible could hit the window. And you don't want to be near that when that does happen. Move to a central location. If your plan is to be going to a shelter, know how to get there, know the best route to get there, and give yourself plenty of time to get there. Do it before the storms even begin, or at least be in the area, just so you have that access to that shelter as these storms start to move through, starting about 6 o'clock Central Time later this evening. And I'll show you in a moment where we're going to be seeing that line of storms start across the weather radar. So winds, biggest threat are the winds this evening. And we'll also get into the tornado threat. There is a chance for tornadoes embedded in this line of storms that's not only causing the damaging winds, but that tornado threat. There is good spin in the atmosphere, especially across southwest, sort of west central Oklahoma, where there's a chance for EF2 to EF3 strength tornadoes. Now, what that means is we could see winds at least 111 miles per hour to at least 165 miles per hour for an EF2 to EF3 strength tornado. And across this central area here is where we have the largest threat for that. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the only area that could see tornadoes. As you see, we have this 2% risk right across Missouri and even into the Texas Panhandle. Any of these areas could see tornadoes through this line of storms later this evening. And I will be checking, just as an aside, I'll be checking the comments on here in case you have any questions. And after this, if you have any questions, be sure to leave comments. I'll be checking this even after we're live. So be sure to leave your questions in there. Okay. All right, we've covered the damaging winds, derecho threat, and we've covered the tornado threat. Again, warnings that are coming in. Have your notifications switched on. Have a NOAA weather radio as well. Make sure everything's charged. Now's the time to be charging everything so that you have plenty of juice already in your cell phone and in however any other way that you do get a severe weather threat, be sure everything's charged and you have it ready to go. So we've covered the tornadoes and the damaging winds. There's also a hail threat, especially across the southern plains, even getting into the southern Kansas area. There is a hail threat for later as this line of storms does move through. Now, hail sizes around an inch, which is about the size of a quarter, are very likely, but even hail sizes around tennis ball to even egg size are possible as this line of storms does move through as well. So now we've got tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail. Nothing you want to be out in, and you want to make sure that you are keeping your eyes on the weather radar and have at least 3 ways to receive a severe weather notification about these storms later this evening. Nothing you want to be outside in. All right, so let's see. What am I going to go over here next? We're going to go over what this is going to look like. Let me bring up the weather radar again. All right. Now, as I said before, this is the current view of what we are seeing across the southern plains right now. Again, there's that cloud cover that we're seeing right now that is eventually going to be moving off. And let me actually show the satellite and what that looks like right now. You can actually see it in motion of what that looks like in real time and what that looks like in real color and what this looks like just from a bird's eye view. We got this dry sector that I was telling you about earlier. This is going to be where the front is moving through. This is where they're getting plenty of sunshine, and this is where temperatures are rising. And you can see even the cloud cover is moving off to the east, bringing sunshine across the southern and central plains as this does shift east. What that does now, we all love the sun. We love when the sun comes out. When we have a severe weather threat, the sun is actually what causes those temperatures to rise, and what causes, as those temperatures rise, that causes the instability in the atmosphere. So when the sun comes out, you've got a severe weather threat, really keep your eyes peeled on the weather radar and keep your eyes peeled outside as well. So when the sun comes out, that gives plenty of juice in the atmosphere for things to really ramp up. And that's what we're going to see here later this evening. Let's go back to the weather radar. I apologize. I wasn't showing this. This is what I was just talking about with the satellite. You see this dry sector here where all that sunshine's coming in, and that's the shift to the east where all those clouds are moving. You're going to get all that sunshine that's moving in. Temperatures rise, instability even more. You're going to see those storms line up. All right, now let's get into the weather radar. I'm going to double check questions here in one moment. Awesome. All right. This is the weather radar. This is what you will see once you open the weather and radar app. You can scroll down, you click on the weather radar, you have all of this. You can see anywhere in the world, see what the weather is going on. But tonight we want to make sure we are looking at the southern plains and into the Midwest. So that's this area here. Like I mentioned earlier, you've got the cloud cover that is moving off to the east, and you've got the sunshine showing up here across the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles. Temperatures are rising to 74 in Amarillo, 67 in Lubbock, and 68 across Midland. Texas is doing well as far as temperatures, and we're going to see those temperatures rise a little bit more as the day goes on, as this afternoon does go on, as the cloud cover does begin to dissipate off to the east. So let's take a look at when these storms are actually going to fire, and you can actually follow this on your weather and radar app to get the forecast up to 4 days in advance to see when these storms are going to fire. Now we can see that these storms are going to start forming later this afternoon. This is about 4 p.m. Central. We see the line of storms here across southwest Kansas into the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles, this line of storms here. The low pressure is involved with all of this here, all this snow out across the southern Rockies, and it's going to move to the east. Now, this line of storms is going to gain strength as it does move east, as it's clashing into that warm, water-laden air mass that is sitting across the southern plains. And what's feeding that is, we're actually going to show on the wind radar what that looks like right now. Wind radar is a great tool, especially for those damaging gusts that are going to be coming in later. It's a great tool to keep an eye on for looking at the gusts across your area. Now, the streams here, you see where they're coming from, is right out of the south. We've got all that warm air sitting in the south, and all of this water-laden air, this whole water-laden air mass is being fed by the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see these streams here moving right out of the Gulf into the southern plains and really ramping up around this area here across the southern high plains and into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles. Gusts right now, even just right now, are 50 miles an hour across Amarillo and Lubbock. That's going to strengthen later as these storms do move through. And with that southern flow out of the Gulf of Mexico, out of the Mexican plateau, that is bringing all that warm air, and that's also causing that instability to rise across the southern plains. Now let's get back into the weather radar so we can see exactly what's going to be going on this evening as far as storm time when those do begin. All right, so we see here storms starting to fire around 4 p.m. Central, and we can move ahead in time and see these storms ramp up a bit across the panhandles and really become organized by the time we hit 7 p.m. Central, right around dinner time. Now, this is where we really want to be paying attention to where these storms are hitting. And you can see here the yellow dots are the lightning, and the stronger the storms are, the amount of lightning does increase across this area. So we can see here this line of storms moving through. It's a great depiction of the line of storms ahead of that cold front. So we can see how when they're moving through. 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. moving through, and the temperatures are dropping as it goes through as well. So let's take a look at what the wind radar does show as these storms move through. This is another neat thing that you can see where you actually find the front. These areas where these streamlines are meeting and coming together, that is where we have the confluence of those streams. So you see all that southerly flow coming together, and even southwesterly flow coming together into the area. That's where you know the front is. And that's where you're going to see that line of storm really fire across that area when you see the clash of the two types of air masses. Here we see 60 mile an hour gusts across Amarillo, 50 across Guyman, and we're going to keep moving it through the evening hours tonight. And you see those winds. You can see the front moving across here. Winds really kicking up, and wind gusts can cause a lot of damage later this evening. If there are any objects outside that are loose, again, be sure to either bring those in or put a big rock on it, something, just to keep it from being able to be picked up and become a dangerous flying object. We had a storm around here last summer where there was a piece of sheet metal that did get stuck in a tree on the sharp end. So you never know. Anything can become a flying object and can really do some damage. All right, so we're going to move into one more item here that you're going to take a look at right on your Weather and Radar app. Again, it's free. You can take a look at this all the way through the evening so you can be as prepared as possible as these storms do move through. We're going to take a look at the lightning radar. So this is going to show what lightning looks like right now. You can see there's some thunderstorms firing here across the southern high plains, and you'll be able to take a look at that later this evening as the storms do move through. So be sure to check on that lightning radar so you can see just how strong these storms are, and you'll be able to see it in real time. Alrighty. So, all right, I'm going to double check for any questions, any timing questions. Again, please send this link to anybody who is going to be impacted by these storms later this evening. Again, we're going to be going live on Facebook here right after this. I'll be sure to go over this again and let them know. Let them know that we'll be able to do this and be able to give them as much information as possible as we go about this severe weather event. Alrighty. So I do want to talk about the safety resources that you can really keep in mind, especially before the event. Main resources to keep in mind are shelter. Where are you going to shelter for these storms? You either have your home or a central location inside your home that you're going to take a look at and make sure there's no windows. You want to be as far away from windows and doors as these storms do move through in the most centralized location. Get as many walls between you and the storm, really, is the big thing. If you go to a shelter, make sure you have the quickest way to get there, the safest way to get there, and know what to bring. So that's water, maybe some snacks. Have special documents that you need with you, maybe a social security card, ID, things like that. Have your NOAA weather radio on and the alerts on it turned on as well so that you can have at least another way to get a severe weather alert as these storms do move through. Also be sure to bring any prescriptions that you have if you're going to a shelter. And include your pets in an emergency plan. You should have an emergency plan when storms do hit, especially across here in the southern plains. We're getting into that springtime weather, and severe storms are going to be ramping up. We've got meteorological spring starting here on Wednesday, I believe. Yes, Wednesday is March 1st. Meteorological spring starts, and that's where we're already seeing severe weather ramp up as the warm weather begins to come back north, and the winter air does move out. So we're going to be seeing a lot more severe weather across the area here in the next several months. So have an emergency plan, include your pets, include everything that you need. Just think about your daily needs and what would be the best way to add that to an emergency plan. And think about that for today as well. And other resources that we need to think about that you have right at your fingertips are the items on the Weather and Radar app. So we've already gone over, and you can see here the Weather Radar, where you can watch these storms line up. You can click on today and take a look at these storms as they are moving across the southern and central plains, and even into tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Again, we got 4 days ahead that you can take a look at for free to have the forecast right at your hands and be able to stay safe, especially as these storms we do move through. And we have already posted a couple of articles that can give you some tips on the items that are going to be coming through with these storms. So if you need to know more about driving through a tornado, if that ever happens, you can know more. We got the article out there for you. You can access it right for free on the app. We have your weather alerts and how to turn those on for you right on the app as well. And what is a derecho? Because we're talking about derecho coming through here across the southern plains. And it's interesting too, about 30% of derechos occur in the wintertime. They're mostly a summertime thing where it happens in late spring to summer, happening between April and August. But they occur in the winter. If you've got the right ingredients, they can occur in the winter. So we're seeing one of those cool season derecho possibilities today. So we've got a derecho article, so everything you need to know about that in the Weather and Radar app as well. In addition to all these maps that you have access to, the weather radar, the lightning radar, and the wind radar are really good resources to have as these storms do move through. So keep that in mind. Everything is right at your fingertips. All right, I'm going to double check for questions here one more time. Awesome, we are good to go. All right, so if anybody has any questions, again, I will be checking back on this post to make sure that any questions get answered. Share this with somebody that you know that is across the southern plains, and have at least 3 ways to receive a severe weather alert. That's going to be your best way to know when severe weather is in your area and to heed those warnings when that does come in. It's going to be an interesting evening, but you can be prepared. Just make sure you have everything you need and know when the storms are coming. Use the weather radar, have your NOAA weather radio, things like that. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I will be checking back for questions, and I'll be heading over to Facebook here in a couple of minutes. Thank you.